The front door creaked open as I stepped into the house I hadn't visited in months. The air was thick, not with dust, but with tension that clung to the walls like smoke after a fire. My suitcase wheels bumped softly against the hardwood floor as I made my way into the living room. Dad was already there, standing like a statue near the fireplace. Sophie sat rigidly on the couch, arms crossed, her eyes locked onto mine the moment I entered. "Emily," Dad said coldly, not even offering a hello. "We need to talk." I nodded, setting my suitcase aside. I figured. The silence felt like a fuse, short and burning fast. Then it happened. "Return the $50,000 or don't come back," Dad shouted, his voice louder than I'd ever heard it before. He pointed directly at me, like a judge delivering a sentence. His eyes, once warm and tired, were now sharp and blazing with suspicion. I blinked. "What?" "You heard me," he barked. "You took the money from your mother's account. We checked. The funds are gone. And you, of all people, you had access." My heart dropped, but I stayed still. Sophie jumped in, standing now, her tone shrill with fury. "You took Mom's money. We all know it. She trusted you, and you used that to steal from her. How could you?" I looked at both of them, my father, trembling with rage, and my sister, looking like she'd been waiting months to unload this on me. I could feel the fire behind their accusations, fueled by grief, maybe guilt, maybe even jealousy. But I didn't say a word. Instead, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a slim envelope. From it, I removed 4 teller slips, dated, signed, and stamped. I walked slowly to the kitchen counter, placed them down one by one, and slid them forward. Their eyes flicked down, and then back up to me. "What is this?" Dad growled. "Proof," I said quietly. "Of everything." They leaned over. Sophie grabbed the top slip and scanned it. Her eyes moved fast, then stopped. Her brows furrowed. This shows the money was moved weeks before Mom passed," she murmured. "And it wasn't me who made the transfer," I added. "It was her. She set it up. With a lawyer. I have the documents." Dad reached for the second slip, then the third. As he read, the redness drained from his face. His hand began to tremble. "I don't believe this," he whispered. "You never asked?" I replied. "You just assumed." Sophie looked at me, her eyes flickering between anger and uncertainty. "But why would she move it all to you?" "She didn't. It wasn't for me. It was for a purpose. For a gallery she wanted me to open, her dream. I have the letter. She called it Margaret's Light. She wanted her art, and the art of women like her, to be seen. You never listened to her when she talked about it." Silence swallowed the room whole. The air was colder now, not because of the weather, but because reality had slipped into the room and knocked the breath out of them. Dad sank into the armchair, the teller's slips crumpled slightly in his grip. I thought," he started, but his voice broke. "I know what you thought," I said gently. "And I know you're grieving. But I'm grieving too. She was my mother, and she trusted me. She told me things she couldn't say out loud to you. She knew what kind of pressure she was under. And she wanted this done quietly." Sophie's arms dropped to her sides. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Their faces had gone pale, completely drained of the righteous fury they wore like armor just minutes ago. And in that moment, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted. "You should have let me explain," I said quietly. "Instead, you attacked me the moment I walked in." Dad covered his face with his hands. Sophie sat back down, blinking rapidly, like she was trying to hold back tears, or guilt. I turned to leave the room, pausing only once. "The lawyer's letter is in my bag. You can read it when you're ready." And then, without waiting for a response, I walked upstairs, my footsteps echoing through the house that once felt like home. The bedroom still smelled faintly of lavender. Mom used to spray her pillows with it every night, claiming it helped her sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the half-open closet, the worn carpet, and the framed photo of us at my college graduation. She was smiling in it, holding my hand so tightly like she knew something I didn't. I reached into my suitcase and pulled out the manila folder, thick with paperwork I never wanted to use as ammunition. But that's what it had become. Proof. Evidence. Armor. I remembered the day Mom took me to the bank. It was 6 weeks before she passed. She hadn't told anyone else, not even Dad. We sat side by side in her old silver Subaru, parked outside First National Bank of Willow Creek. Her hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel. "I want you to come in with me," she said, eyes forward. "Why?" I asked, worried. She'd been slowing down, getting more tired lately. But she always kept things to herself, refusing to admit anything was wrong. "I'm opening a trust," she said. "In your name." That stopped me. "What for?" She finally turned to look at me, and her expression was unusually serious. "Because I don't trust anyone else to do what I want." It sounded harsh. At the time, I thought maybe she was just frustrated with Dad, who had been distant for years, buried in his work and grief over his own mother's passing. Or Sophie, who always had her own family to worry about. Mom had looked me dead in the eye and said, "This money isn't for you, Emily. It's for something we both care about. You remember the dream I always talked about?" I nodded. "The gallery." She smiled, a sad but proud smile. "Yes. I never had the courage to start it. I had children, bills, a husband who didn't believe it would work. But you have the vision. The strength. I want you to make it real." I didn't argue. I followed her into the bank, watched her speak to the manager like she'd rehearsed the whole thing. She moved $50,000 into a new trust account under my name, with stipulations for how it could be used. The gallery was written into the contract. She even left a letter with her attorney, sealed and notarized. "I don't want them to know right away," she said as we walked back to the car. "They'll say I was being unfair. But I wasn't. I just knew who would carry my dream." That day stuck with me like a stone in my pocket. And now, sitting in her bedroom, with my family downstairs recovering from their own assumptions, I open the folder and reread the documents. Trust agreement. Transfer receipts. Her handwritten letter. A copy of the gallery plan we sketched together at the kitchen table. She had written in the margin of one page, "Art lives longer than people. Let them remember me through something beautiful." I blinked back tears. She hadn't left me money. She'd left me a mission. Downstairs, I heard soft footsteps, Sophie's. A quiet knock on the door. "Emily?" she called out gently. I didn't answer right away. She waited a few seconds, then added, "Can we talk?" I sighed, stood up, and opened the door. Sophie looked smaller than she had downstairs, less like a soldier, more like a sister. She glanced at the folder in my hand. I read the letter," she said, barely above a whisper. "I didn't know. I really didn't." "I know," I replied. She hesitated. "It's just, I thought she'd leave us everything equally. That's what she always said." "She did," I said. "She left you love." "Me too. But she also left me a task." Sophie looked down. "She didn't think I could do it?" I placed the folder on the nightstand. "It's not about that. It's about what she felt was right. You have a family. A life of your own. I'm still building mine. And she knew I'd build something that included her." Silence again. Sophie looked around the room, then whispered, "I'm sorry I accused you. We were just scared. Confused." "I know." We stood there, two daughters trying to make peace with the absence of a mother who had always been the thread that held us together. "She believed in you," Sophie said finally. "I see that now." I nodded. "I just hope I can live up to it." 3 days passed. The house slowly returned to a fragile state of quiet. No one raised their voice anymore, but the silence was heavy, like everyone was walking on the edge of something that could collapse again with one wrong word. Dad barely spoke. He spent most of his time on the back porch with an untouched cup of coffee, staring at the yard Mom had once filled with wildflowers. The garden was now overgrown, left to its own devices. Like all of us, really. I stayed in my old room, sorting through Mom's journals and sketches, trying to build the foundation of the gallery she dreamed about. Every page I turned reminded me why she trusted me, not because I was the favorite, but because I was the only one who ever truly listened. On the third morning, while I was sipping lukewarm tea and outlining ideas in my notebook, Dad knocked on the door. "Can I come in?" he asked. I didn't answer right away, then finally said, "Yeah." He stepped in slowly, like he didn't know if he was welcome. He looked around the room, at the papers, at the drawings. Then he sat down in the chair by the window and rubbed his hands together like he was trying to warm up. "I read the trust document," he said quietly. I nodded. "And the letter from your mother?" Another pause. "She didn't tell me," he murmured, his voice cracking slightly. "Not one word." "She didn't think you'd support it," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "She said you'd try to stop her?" He sighed. "She was probably right." I looked at him then. He was older than I remembered, grayer, more tired. Grief had aged him fast. "I wasn't always the best husband," he continued. "I thought I was doing the right thing, working, providing, keeping the lights on. But I missed things. Big things." He looked up at me. "And I'm sorry for what I said to you." I was angry, scared. But that's no excuse. For the first time in years, I saw real vulnerability in my father. Not just the pain of losing his wife, but the deeper ache of realizing he had misunderstood her, and me. "I forgive you," I said softly. "But I need you to understand, this gallery isn't about money. It's about Mom. What she believed in. What she wanted to leave behind." He nodded. "I get that now. And if there's anything I can do to help, I want to." The words hit me harder than I expected. "Help me fix up the garden?" I asked. He looked surprised. Then he smiled. Yeah, I can do that." That afternoon, we pulled weeds side by side in the May sun. We didn't talk much. We didn't have to. It was enough just to work together again, for the first time in what felt like forever. But the true turning point came that evening. Sophie showed up holding a cardboard box. "I found these in Mom's attic," she said. "Old canvases. Some of her first paintings." I opened the box carefully. Inside were pieces I hadn't seen in years, portraits, landscapes, even a self-portrait Mom had painted at 23. There was a tiny note taped to one. "For the future walls of something beautiful." Sophie's eyes welled up. She really meant it. All of it. I nodded. She did. And then Sophie did something I didn't expect. She took a deep breath and said, "I want to be part of it too. Not because I feel guilty, but because I believe in it now. In her. And in you." My throat tightened. "You really mean that?" "Yes. If you'll let me, I'll help you build this gallery." I looked at my sister, the girl I'd fought with over the front seat, over clothes, over Mom's attention. And for the first time, I saw her as my teammate. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it together." That night, the three of us sat at the dining table with sketches, notes, and mugs of tea. The air felt lighter. Not fixed, but healing. Piece by piece. Mom may have left us, but she had also given us something to rebuild with. And for the first time in a long time, we weren't three broken people grieving in silence. We were family again. 6 months later, the old brick building on Main Street had transformed. What used to be a dusty storage space above an antique shop was now flooded with light, white walls, tall windows, and canvases that whispered stories in color. The hardwood floors creaked with charm, and the air smelled faintly of fresh paint and something floral. Lavender, of course. Margaret's light was finally real. On opening night, the gallery was filled with people, neighbors, artists, old friends of Mom's. There was music in the background, soft and jazzy, and trays of wine and cheese drifting between conversations. The walls were lined with her work and that of other local women she had quietly supported through the years. Each piece had a tiny plaque underneath it with the artist's name and a quote from Margaret Carter, curated by Emily and Sophie together. I stood near the center of the room, heart racing, watching everything come alive. Every detail Mom had once spoken of during late-night talks over tea now existed in the real world. Dad stood by the entrance, wearing his old brown blazer, looking proud but still slightly out of place. He didn't mingle much, but every few minutes, I'd catch him glancing at one of Mom's landscapes with watery eyes. Sophie was greeting guests, directing people toward the tribute wall, an entire section dedicated to Mom, filled with photos, quotes, and her early sketches. She looked confident and calm, a far cry from the sister who had once pointed fingers and raised her voice in grief. At 7 p.m., I stepped up to the small wooden podium we'd set up near the center and tapped the microphone. The room quieted. I took a breath. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began. "This gallery is more than a space, it's a promise fulfilled. A dream that belonged to Margaret Carter, my mother, and a legacy she trusted me to bring to life." I glanced toward the tribute wall. She believed that art could outlive pain, that beauty could grow from broken places, and that no matter how complicated life got, there was always a place for color, for light, for meaning. People were nodding, some wiping away tears. She didn't leave behind great wealth or fame. But she left behind something stronger: conviction, creativity, and the courage to start again. This gallery is our way of sharing her with the world. Thank you for being part of it. I stepped back, and the room erupted in warm applause. Later that night, after most guests had gone home, I walked alone through the quiet gallery, taking in each piece as if seeing it for the first time. At the far end of the room was Mom's self-portrait, the one Sophie had found in the attic. Someone had left a single white rose beneath it. I smiled. Sophie came to stand beside me. She would have loved this. "I think she does," I said. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. Through the tall gallery windows, the world looked softer somehow, washed in that golden hour hue Mom always tried to capture in her work. I turned to Sophie. "Thank you for believing in this. In me." She shrugged, but her voice was thick with emotion. "You were right. This wasn't about the money. It never was." A few moments later, Dad joined us. He looked at the portrait, then at us, and simply said, "She'd be proud." We stood there quietly, the three of us, no longer torn apart by misunderstanding or silence. In the heart of a little town, under the glow of hanging lights, Margaret's light shone brightly, not just from the walls, but from within us too. Because what she left behind wasn't just art. It was a reason to keep going. A reason to come back together. And a way to remember her, forever.